All right, so we're gonna work on the pedals today. Actually, last night I fixed this one up, which, you know, it doesn't spin forever, but it spins freely except for one sort of rough spot that will either get better over time or get worse, but most likely you won't notice it at all when you're pedaling. But this does not turn at all, so it's just, you know, increased resistance when riding. So just gonna drop that in the vise, and it's not on the threads, it's actually on the flat spot here. It's actually a little bit thicker than the threads. I did the left pedal last night. You can tell it's the left by these grooves on there, also that it says left or an L on the end. Every pedal is a little different, and I know what tools I need for this one, but things will be different for what you're working on. So I'm just popping off this dust cover. Just with a screwdriver. So screwdriver, first tool you need. Second tool, this is a 12mm driver. You may have to try both ways, both directions, and see what works. So that comes off. It's a little bit sticky, but not too bad. Then inside that, there's a little sort of washer with some notches to keep it from spinning, actually. So this is, shouldn't be stuck, it's kind of just sitting on top, but it's a tight fit. So I'm just using a pick with a 45-degree angle to get that out. I got to lift for a second. If that doesn't work, needle nose pliers. That comes straight out. So the problem with this this pedal is that this bike sat just outdoors for a long time, probably in the sun, and it's just like completely baked everything in there. So I think it's a 15mm thread, but it's not a nut, it's a, not thread. The outer dimension, the socket size, would be 15, I believe, but you can't get a 15 in there. So just carefully pull this out using those pliers until you can grab with your fingers. This is rounded on the bottom, and it's what holds the bearings down. So a lot of pedals that I've taken apart in the past have sort of like skateboard bearings, but smaller, so it's like a cartridge style seal bearing thing. I've seen some that are just sort of like semi-open, they're like in a cartridge, but like you can add grease to them, kind of. Not completely sealed. And if you want to service those, you kind of push them out. So this grease in here, it did its job to prevent rust for the most part, but it's just like almost turned to, it's like a consistency of like wet glue. So it's like stringy, sticky, and, you know, adding tons of friction. So it's all amber, sticky. That's not good. So that's going into a little jar. I've got some degreaser. This is just kitchen degreaser, Lysol Kitchen Pro Power Degreaser, which is obviously not bike specific, but works well enough. So that's just going to sit in there. Now there are a whole bunch of bearings, so all of those will come out. You're not supposed to use a magnet for this, but a lot of people do. So just got to grab a bit. Actually, it's so stuck in there that they won't even. So So A, there's not enough grease in here, and B, it's turned to glue. So just drop those into the degreaser. So then you lift, actually don't lift up. You want to take it out of the vise, flip it over, and then all the rest are stuck around the axle. So just get those into there. Okay. All right, and I'm going to move pedal that's already cleaned up out of the way. And yeah, now just a matter of soaking these in degreaser. And then cleaning them up without scratching them or anything like that. Just doing it here in this tray, but the other one I did over the sink. So I'm just going to grab some bits of paper towel and start kind of scooping this old grease out. And then when it gets too sticky, we'll squirt more in there. And we'll just jump ahead to when I've got that done. Right, so I've gone over all of that with several Q-tips and half a sheet of paper towel until the paper towel is coming out clean, and I'm just going to go over this with a green Scotch-Brite pad just to get any like sharp edges, because this is a very inexpensive pedal, and I can kind of feel a burr that would be rubbing on the axle. So just getting rid of that, both sides. Just a tiny amount of attention to detail that wasn't there when they built it. So all right, that's done. Let's get rid of those. Let's do the axle. This stuff is just so sticky. It just it's strong enough I can hold up the whole thing with a paper towel. Now it's all over my hands. All right, see you in a couple minutes. The axle is now clean. Now moving on to the bearings, the cups and whatnot. The degreaser did its thing, and that came off without too much difficulty. It's not completely clean yet, but doesn't have to be spotless, but you know, just do your best. Now when it comes to the little ball bearings, just stir them up kind of. I'm going to dump them out. Because if you don't dump them out, sometimes you just, well, what happened with the last pedal was that there's 3 or 4 that I thought went missing or something, but they're just still in the jar. So if I dump them out, I know that they're all here. Doing it on the towel means that they're not going to go far. Roll them around in this degreaser soaked rag until they're not sticky anymore. Do them individually too, but a little more likely to drop them. Now what you're supposed to do is just buy new bearings, buy new pedals. But I don't do that. I try not to. They're not impossible to fix. It's just not necessarily worth the time. You can buy new pedals for $15 that are better than these. And you can ride for 3 years without having to think about this stuff. And at that point, do you do this? Do you take it apart? Right, so I think these are pretty clean now. Coming back to the pedal, we've got a shallow side and a deep side. The shallow side is where we're going to start. I'm going to fill this up with grease. I use this. And there's nothing special about this. Arguably it's the wrong grease, whatever. It just needs some. This is what my local hardware store has for a fair price that doesn't seem obviously like the wrong thing. So we're just gonna get some kind of grease all over. And like, use a lot. This grease will do a few things. It's going to keep the bearings in. If you have to flip this over, I might go back to using the pick. Nope, fingers. And then, yeah, it's gonna, I forgot where I started that statement. Grease is gonna keep these bearings in. It's gonna protect them from rust. It should allow them to roll smoothly. So that looks like about right. Maybe one more. Yeah. It's another little bit of grease on top. Not lots of grease on this. This goes inside without pushing any of those away. Okay. This one doesn't have any seals or anything. So I'm carefully put that in the vise. Not too tight, but it's on there. Let's get a bunch of grease in there. Poke that down a little bit. Focus. And drop each of those bearings that are left into the cup. At this point, you don't want to lift the pedal housing, body, whatever you want to call it, or the bearings will come out, go inside, go underneath, go on the floor, whatever. So try not to. Right. Get them evenly spaced. There's ample lubrication in there now. Don't want them stacked on top of each other, so just trying to find a spot for them all. So it rotates. I'll try to push this up just a little bit. Okay. So at this point, you kind of need to feel that it's in there right. A lot of this is done by feel. Let's get rid of all of this. All right, so first up, got this cup, so rounded side, which holds the bearings in. Again, more grease. It will sort of spill out, but it's necessary. Okay, at this point you got to twist it on with the pliers. It's something that's like opens wide enough to go around the nut, but skinny enough that fits inside around the housing. This will screw down pretty far. It's mostly so that you notice that there's a problem with your pedal before it completely falls apart, I would guess. Okay. Keep going. This should not be tight. It should be pushed down just until the pedal doesn't lift anymore. So at this point, like you can hear it, so just a little bit more. Okay, so now there's no left-right movement. But, as you saw, it unscrews when you spin it. So, let's try that again. Just until there's no left-right movement. A little less. A little less. A little more. Okay. Drop on the, what do you call it? The notched washer. And the nut. So, no side-to-side motion, spins freely, rattling, should be good. And there's plenty of grease in there. That should last a long time. And then just with a rag, just clean off any excess. So that was, I don't know, 25 minutes to do that. Usually cheaper to buy a new pedal.